We need a system that will start to make agriculture sexy again. Agriculture is the same career like any other, that, it will teach our young people that I can be a young woman, I can be educated, I can be beautiful, and yet be involved in agriculture, be energetic, and still laugh my way to the bank every day.
Hello, guys. Welcome to the second part of the Start of Africa show. Like I told you, we have a very special guest. We don't have anybody in the room. We have a horticulturist. We have an agri-entrepreneur. She calls herself a lover of life. I got her a boss lady as well. So please welcome Joy Ladu, all the way from South Sudan. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Pamela.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us today. From which part of South Sudan are you calling us from?
I am actually calling from Juba. And again, thank you so much for having me on this show today.
I just needed to have what you're gonna bring during this episode. I don't even know if these guys are ready for it.
Oh, let's hope so. We're here to learn from each other.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you always know you were going to be an entrepreneur, like an agri-entrepreneur?
Actually, I never knew that I would become an agripreneur or an entrepreneur. I never knew growing up that one day I would build a business of my own. But growing up and looking back into some of the experiences that I had, it now begins to make sense that I have actually always been a curious person. I've always wanted to do things on my own. I've always wanted to test the waters and try new things. But I feel like during my childhood, just like any other African child, most of my childhood was focused a lot on education, books, getting those good grades, and trying to focus on the career that my family felt or deemed right for me. And so, but with the curiosity in me, I feel like my childhood, that's where it formed the entrepreneurial spirit in me. But also, this was cemented for me after I finished my university and started working with other organizations and companies. That is where I began to realize that actually the 9 to 5 space was not for me, because it did not give me the liberty to be able to think and to do things the way I wanted. It did not, because of the policies and rules and regulations of companies, it did not allow me to be able to think outside of the box. And then I visited South Sudan 4 years ago. And what I saw was a huge problem that was gaping in my eyes: food insecurity. When I came in 2017 to South Sudan, I realized that the country was dependent on importation. We're importing at least 80% of all of our food from neighboring East Africa and all the way from countries far away from the continent. And so that was the moment where I decided that I think this was for me, because there was no company at that time that was willing to hire or employ me to be able to contribute towards resolving this problem. And so I decided to start my own business and solve the problem. And suddenly I became an entrepreneur.
You are functioning as a core entrepreneur, solving problems. I want to understand. So you were working in the corporate sector, then you realized this is not your space. You moved. You're like, okay, I want to do something else. But there's so many things. How does that passion for horticulture actually come from? In agriculture, there's so many things, but you specialize, especially Ubuntu farm in horticulture. So why did you decide to shift to that side?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that agriculture is not just a job or a career. Agriculture is a way of life. you know. And for me, this passion stems from the desire to be able to provide easily accessible, healthy, and quality nutritious foods to my people, instead of us depending on imported foods, because we have all the resources. We have the human resources, we have the natural resources. What is preventing us from producing our own? Why are we depending on other people to produce for us? And so again, growing up, my family had a backyard garden, you know, so we used to grow our vegetables, our herbs, and I really loved being out in the nature, and just interacting with the soil, interacting with Mother Earth. But for me, I feel like that experience cemented something very critical in me, to be able to see the transformative power of agriculture. Because you take a small seed, you plant it in the soil, consistently irrigate it, and then let's say watermelon seed, 3 months later, 2.5 months later, you get a big, juicy watermelon fruit, you know? So that idea of the power of the transformative ability of agriculture is what actually gave me the passion to want to do this, because it showed me that so many things can actually be changed through agriculture in this our continent. Not only food insecurity, but so many other problems. But it starts with the small things. You know, just the same way we start with a seed and we're able to bring food to our tables, that is the same way that agriculture can resolve so many things. And then, like I told you, my passion got a little bit elevated when I came back to South Sudan and realized that my country was depending so much on importation. You know, we're importing pretty much almost everything. By the time some of these foods, raw foods, arrive to our country, they are no longer fresh. They're stale, and we use that to feed to our children and our elderly. So that kind of really, it was like a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, you know, because we have all the resources, Pamela, in South Sudan. We have more than 80% of the land here is arable. You know, we have the White Nile that flows every day. So we have access to water. We have a very youthful population. Why are we importing? So I really decided to go with this to be able to not only, it was a business opportunity, but also to be able to set an example to my young South Sudanese, fellow young South Sudanese and Africans, both continental in the diaspora, that we can do things on our own.
Yes. That is very impactful. I think you've just guided into my second question, my third question, actually. I was going to ask, do you feel like we as Africans here in Africa understand that agriculture is our greatest economic power for most of us? And if not, how can we even understand that everything that we want from other people, they want it from us? We're even the ones providing it so that they can send it back to us. Yeah.
That is a very deep question, Pamela, and I think I'll just give myself a few seconds to reflect into it, because it touches on so many integral tangents. I feel like as Africans, we fail to understand the economic muscle of agriculture, the power that agriculture has in our economy, and especially at this very moment in history in Africa, where we stand at an inception of an economic evolution. You know, there is an economic evolution happening right now. I don't know whether our people realize that, because we are having other countries coming in. China is coming in heavily to invest. You know, European countries are coming heavily to invest. And so, in my opinion, I think two things have contributed towards our failed understanding of how agriculture can actually transform our economy. The first one is our education system. Our education system that is so theory dense, and it does not focus on the practicalities of life. Pamela, think about it. Today, we are having thousands upon thousands of young Africans each year graduating with degrees, with masters from different institutions and in different fields of agriculture. And yet, we have so many countries in Africa that are at the brink of starvation. You know, why is that? Because we have a system that is focusing on pumping our young people with information, but not practical practical knowledge. They're not able to apply the knowledge that they receive from these institutions. And so we end up producing people that have so much knowledge, but not with so much, but not practical knowledge, But our leaders keep on talking about agriculture being the backbone of our economy. But this same backbone does not speak. Yeah, it does not speak to the very economy, because if it is the backbone to our economy, we should be able to produce people that are producing foods, and no African person should be starving to death, or should be staying without knowing where the next meal is going to come from. And so the first problem is our education system that focuses so much on theory instead of imparting people with actually knowledge and skills that they can apply. So we have people with degrees that are just accumulating dust, and they have nothing. They have nothing to do. The second one is our education system that emphasizes on white-collar jobs instead of blue-collar jobs like agriculture, mining, and stuff like that. And so we have an education system that stereotypes certain kinds of careers, that tells young Africans that these kind of careers are better than the others. We need a system that will begin to de-stereotype agriculture. We need a system that will start to make agriculture sexy again. Agriculture is the same career like any other, that, it will teach our young people that I can be a young woman, I can be educated, I can be beautiful, and yet be involved in agriculture, be energetic, and still laugh my way to the bank every day. So we need a system that can de-stereotype. Yeah, we need a system that can de-stereotype agriculture. And then my final point is actually, there is also this thing about too much economic liberalism that has skewed our understanding of modernization, because now the more African countries become modernized, strangely, we begin to think that we begin to lose our connection to some of the foods that we originally grew and ate. And now we become so dependent on foods that are not part of our natural recipes. I'll give you an example. For instance, like today, we have many African countries that are becoming modernized, right? And so more people are moving to the cities. And instead of us adopting our traditional African foods, we start thinking the more people start earning their money, the more they want to eat fast foods, the more they want to eat pizzas, the more they want to buy rice, which is not an indigenous of Africa. Instead of us going back and growing fonio, which is actually one of the world's most nutritious grains, which is indigenous to Africa. And so that whole concept of modernization, which has become tied to Western food, has skewed our understanding of agriculture. And also it has screwed up the demand for things that we do produce here in Africa. And so you can have a person who's interested in agriculture, produce food, but they might not end up being successful. Why? Because they do not have a big market for the things that they produce, because most of our population are demanding things that are being produced from other countries. So we end up becoming markets for things that are not produced in our own continent, instead of supporting our own, instead of going back to our roots. So those are the few things that I think have really pretty much, they have skewed our understanding of the powerful impact and the powerful economic muscle that agriculture can have in our economy.
So you've spoken so much about how people haven't been able to understand that as Africans, agriculture is our greatest economic power because of three main points. I want to go in and talk about Ubuntu Farm. What influence has Ubuntu Farm done on the South Sudanese so far?
Sure. Ubuntu Farms, I think I should just first of all start with what Ubuntu is, because usually in most of my interviews it still comes up. I will just try to explain to you the name first, the reason why I took the name, and then the influence that it has on my community, or the South Sudanese people. As you know, Ubuntu is actually an African conception and philosophy that focuses so much on togetherness, humanity and relationships that human beings have with each other and our communities. And so pretty much what Ubuntu, it is a word that is derived from the Zulu tribe in South Africa. And what it says is that my humanity is caught up and is inextricably bound up in your humanity. I am human because I belong, I participate, I share in harmony, in friendliness, and in community. And so you and I are made for interdependence and complementarity. You have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have. And so we are because of each other. You are because I am, and I am because you are. And so the whole mission and the whole idea of Ubuntu for me is the idea of community that, as an individual or as one business or an organization, I cannot solve the problems of this continent. We have to come together as a people. As Africans, as the youth, we have to come together as a continent to solve our own problems. And so that is the power behind the Ubuntu name. And so I feel like the influence that the business has on my community and South Sudanese as a whole, besides the business aspect of it, being able to provide food, quality, fresh, and organic foods to the market, is also one of the aspects that I have, is to be able to educate the locals, to educate youths and women, especially to empower them with knowledge to be able to produce their own foods. I encourage them to start small. I have trainings where I encourage them to start small with backyard gardens or kitchen garden where they can grow their food, and hopefully, ultimately, they will be able to supplement food in their families and grow big. So that is the spirit of Ubuntu, to do things together, to be able to solve problems together. Because one person is not, we are not an island. One person cannot solve the problems of this continent, but together we can.
That is so beautiful. I am because you are. We are together.
Yeah.
I wanted to just round up by asking, what are the upcoming projects that Ubuntu has for South Sudan or just Africa as a whole?
Okay, so right now we are focusing a lot on expansion as a business, and we are focusing a lot on mechanization, because I feel like mechanization is going to take our business to a whole new level. So that is what we are working on right now. But on the other hand, I want to also talk a little bit about the sister project to Ubuntu Farms, which is the Tales of Junubia. It's a YouTube channel that I currently run. It's called Tales of Junubia, where I pretty much showcase my day-to-day work at the farm, the kind of things that I do at the farm, and then also try to share stories of other agribusinesses in South Sudan, the trends in agriculture in South Sudan and also in Africa, and also to be able to change the narrative around agriculture and Africa as a whole, and South Sudan as a whole, because thanks to the Western media out there that portrays a different story about the continent. So I use my channel to be able to encourage young South Sudanese and young Africans, continental and in the diaspora, that it is possible. It is possible. Yes, it might not be easy, it might be difficult, but it is possible if one decides to apply themselves. You can actually surprise yourself, you can surprise others by pushing the limits and making it possible. So that is what I use my channel for. So the new project that I am working on is I have a goal for being able to inspire or get at least 20,000 young Africans in the next 5 years to join in agriculture. Agriculture is a very big field. If you're not interested in the production aspect of it, you can do so many other things. There's consulting, there's marketing, there's transportation. There's just like a whole lot where people can be involved. So the mission of Tales of Junubia is to be able to inspire 20,000 young Africans in the next 5 years to be able to join in agriculture, because I know agriculture is going to make the next multi-billionaires of Africa. and it is worth it. Yes, that it is worth it that in this coming evolution in the economic evolution in this continent, that Africans and people of African descent be the first people to benefit from this evolution, because we deserve it. And so that's why I
Yeah.
want to push that. Yeah, we deserve it, and it is up to us. We don't want to wait until it's 50 years down the line and then say, oh, other countries have already jumped in, they have invested, and we have not reaped anything out of it. It is worth it, so that right now young Africans can be able to invest and apply themselves so that we can reap from the benefits of our natural resources and the things that the abundance of this continent. So that is my mission for the next 5 years. I want to be able to impart and share my story and share my knowledge and influence at least 20,000 young Africans to be able to join in agriculture.
I hope that always comes into a realization. I hope that the 20,000 people do join, because agriculture is the next big thing. Agriculture is the future. Thank you so much, Joy, for tuning in for this week's episode of Startup Africa. I've learned so much about, just thinking a little bit deeper about agriculture. I hope you enjoyed this interview, Joy.
I did. Thank you so much. It's been fun talking to you.
Okay. Have a nice
Yeah.
day.
Thank you.